Good evening, Zambia. Welcome to BM8 Unfiltered. Every Friday for the last couple of weeks, we have sat with you with Honorable Brian Mundubile, who is the Tonse Alliance President and 2026 candidate for the Tonse Alliance. He has answered your unfiltered questions, but going forward, he will be coming to you live on the same platform every Thursday. I know a lot of people have tried to reach him. He still doesn't have his phones, but he will be sharing with you all his experiences, and you'll be able to understand why he doesn't have his phones. Well, I'm here with the man of the moment, the leader of the Tonse Alliance. It's now time for us to get in and find out what happened, or rather what transpired in the last 24 hours. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Buchi. It's good to be here again. I want to say Tili Banji to our people in Mungubudu, Luchwani to our people in Mongu, to GVAP, people in Solwezi, to Lishani, Mwevena Kasama, Mwevena Mporokoso.
Quite an eventful 24 hours you had. How are you feeling?
Well, Buchi, I don't know how to describe the feeling, but I'll be quick to say that it's not about how I feel. It's about how the Zambian people feel. It's not so much about me as an individual. It's about the Zambian people. This fight, which is about the Zambian people. If this is what it will take for me and Tonse to fight for the Zambian people, I want to say that we are ready to go in those police cells every other week. So if the fight against poverty, the fight against injustices, the fight against the violations of people's rights will end us in police cells every other week, which I want to tell you that we are ready.
Your day yesterday started as an ordinary day. You had a flight scheduled, you were supposed to travel out, you ended up spending the night in police cells. How can you describe the happenings yesterday?
Well, everything was very dramatic, Buchi, starting with the conduct of the law enforcement agencies at the airport and even at the police station. Clearly, from their conduct, one thing comes to mind. There's a lot of work to be done. A lot of work to be done insofar as reforms are concerned. As Tonse, we think this is very urgent, that we should institute reforms in the civil service generally, or public service generally, and especially when it comes to the police service and other law enforcement agencies. What is very clear is that the law enforcement agencies, the officers from the law enforcement agencies, have lost their conscience, to operate within the law. Their fidelity to the law is now brought in question. Tabakweteko na kali akatino kuti tuleto befunde. Kuti babomba musango uli onso balefwaya without following the law. Ordinarily, what you'd expect is that those that have a responsibility and mandate to enforce the law should do so within the law, should have their fidelity to the law. So, ngamwalekesha Buchi, what happened yesterday is that we get to the airport and waiting to jump on a plane, to South Africa. These gentlemen come. They start by issuing very alarming statements. They tell me that they're very worried with my activities. My activities that border on national security. They told me they were very, very worried. They thought, I was one such a leader that would want to defend and protect this country. And I was very quick to mention, I said, that's exactly what I am. That's the sort of leader that I am. And I asked them what they were talking about. So they began to throw names. They said, you have huge plans to set this country on fire. I said, officer, wait a minute. I can never have such intentions. I can never have intentions, this is what I said to him, to set a country on fire, a country that I want to lead. And I continued asking him, why don't you land? Why don't you get to the point? He simply couldn't get what he wanted to deliver. But then he began to throw names. He asked me about Mr. Vowden Findlay. He said, do you know Mr. Valdem Finlay? Of course I know Mr. Valdem Finlay. And he went to the next name. Do you know Mr. Xavier Chungu? I said, of course, that's my big brother. Do you know Moise Katumbi? I said, I know the name. I know the gentleman. I've never met him before. Never spoken to him. And he went on, even asking about leaders from the region, whose names I may not want to mention here. But what was most disturbing was them asking him about my interaction with my chief, my interaction with the Mwata. So after all that drama, they even proceeded to conduct a thorough search on my 3 phones without any warrant. And I asked them, I said, I wondered whether they knew that whatever they were doing was illegal. I asked them whether they really had any right to proceed and search my phones in the manner that they did in the absence of any warrant.
I'm informed you still don't have your phones.
I still don't have my phones. At the time they got them, there was no arrest of any sort, but they had full access to the phones, and they went on for hours searching in my phones. So, Buchi, really, we can go on to talk about the unprofessional conduct by the officers that came to the airport. But I think what is important, like I mentioned earlier, it's very urgent that there should be reforms in public service, and especially law enforcement agencies. I'm really worried what is going to happen to the next government if they inherit the current public service, carrying on with their current traditions and customs that they have acquired only under the UPND government. It will be very sad. There's no government that can perform. There would be no performance whatsoever if the new government inherited the current public service with their customs and traditions. Even those that are good. There are some good public workers, I can tell you. There were over 7 officers. There were 7 officers that were conducting this particular search. I could tell some of them were actually professional. You could tell from their psychology that they did not agree with what was going on. But because they live in fear, if at all they objected to what was going on, the following day they won't have their jobs. So to those public officers, I want to say, we understand you. And we will not in any way punish you for that unprofessional conduct, because you're just in the company of those that are unprofessional, or those that have been sent to violate rights of citizens, those that have been sent to persecute other citizens. So kuli abo aba bomfi bakuteko ngebo twamwene mailo aba kuti nabeshibe nchito ifilubo nefisuma nabeshiba lelo bali bapela ukubomba na abantu bamo aba kutila bale basopa bale balolesha nga baisho okutaliko kuti fitule ekisata fili bwino ninshwene nchito kupwa bala bachitale bwatima PF. So for those, we really understand. Your unprofessional conduct in those instances is well understood. So there is need for reform.
Well, it's now dark. You're at Ibex police station. All the tabloids are reporting your arrest. What was really going on through your mind as all these things were happening? Supporters are starting to grow outside. There's a bit of noise, commotion going on. What's really going through your mind?
Well, before I comment on that, Buchi, I want to take this opportunity. Okutasha mwe bantu bonse. Vanamayo imisepela abakote bashitata mwe baishile ku Ibex police station. Mwali kala mumfula for over 5, 6, 7 hours. Infula yonsele ya ishile yamipwilile pamubidi. Mwe misepela nakulumutinta ali pa Ibex mumfula alelo kwa na alolesha namuno kuti uliana kulubantu afuira lele laba na lele labe shikulu na ima icho namuno kutila ifibo uteko bwambo kula chita na ilia hopwa kwete ukutiala kumubuchushi ala onaika. The youths are turned out in their numbers. The youths came there with the belief they have the hope in the Tonse Alliance. They believe in the leadership of the Tonse Alliance. And they turned out in numbers. Soaked the whole night. Buchi, I was touched. I watched through the window. because they only put me in police cells after 01. But before that, I could actually peep through the window. I watched those citizens, old women, old men, youths, girls, all there. They were stuck there. They resisted the intimidation. The police came with their trucks trying to intimidate them. They simply said, this time, we're going to stand up for what is right. I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone most sincerely for standing up with us during that very difficult time. So really, what was going on in my mind? I was watching, the numbers growing. Buses, I don't even know where those buses were coming from. To be very honest, I don't know. Vehicles were arriving every minute. People were chanting songs, singing songs of solidarity. At least up to 02, it was within my hearing. I could hear that. In my mind, I felt so bad. Those people could have been sleeping. Most of those people left their homes without even eating. They left their homes without even knowing what they're going to eat the following day. And on top of that, they risked their health by standing in the rain the whole night with no guarantee and no assurance that should they fall sick, they walk up to a hospital where they're going to find drugs. Very unfortunate indeed. I felt very sad. I had a very, very difficult night thinking about the people that had turned out in support of me at the time that I was being incarcerated.
Let's talk about the reason why you were in police cells, or the reason why you were followed to the airport, and the reason why all this commotion happened in the last couple of hours. Eventually, you were released after the arrest, being charged on aiding and abetting to commit hate speech. And they say these activities happened between 2023 and 2025. How do you respond to these charges?
Well, first of all, like I said earlier, the officers came in with alarming statements that I was involved in activities that border on national security. That's the reason why they had access to my phones, they grabbed my passport and everything else. That was the reason. But even as at the time they took me to Ibex police station, I was not formally charged. I was not formally arrested. Even the detention happened without any charge and without any arrest. So I think this must be made very clear. So what is clear, Buchi, is that President Hakainde Hichilema and the UPND are out there trying to avoid winning or losing this year's election through the ballot. They're trying to bring in technicalities, what you may call imingalato. Hakainde Hichilema bale pepesha kubantu. They were saying they had performed. They had delivered up to 95% of their promises. Everybody learned. Twaliwomba up to 95%, to Sheriff and 5%. At the same time, they were saying there is no opposition. We don't see any opposition that can compete with President Hakainde Hichilema. The question that we have, why the panic today? Why the panic today? President Hakainde Hichilema, Zambia is a constitutional democracy. What we expect, in the same manner that you went for elections in 2021, coming from opposition, won the election and became president, you must understand that if you have failed to perform to the expectations of the Zambian people, that is the same way that you're going to go. And I want to remind you, my dear brother, President Hakainde Hichilema, that this time you should look at winning this election only through the ballot. I want to discourage you. I want to discourage you from using imingalato and technicalities, going around fishing charges as serious as treasonable charges that you want to level against other competitors so that you stop them from competing. That's exactly what was happening yesterday. I could see it. I mean, I'm a trained lawyer. I saw the games that were being played. Literally, these gentlemen were trying to come up with charges, capital charges, so that in the end, they could slap BM8 with treasonable charges so that he's held or is detained for a very long time.
So what does this say about the political environment ahead of the August election? Because President Hichilema has spoken on several occasions that the elections that are coming are going to be free and fair. And the ECZ has also committed to ensuring a free and fair election. But seeing what has happened and the things that you're saying, what do you think it says about the political environment?
I'll repeat what I said. The UPND government right now is out there fishing. The intention is to try and disqualify as many candidates as possible. Those that they identify to be strong candidates. They want to find a way of stopping them from participating in these elections. If you saw what happened yesterday at the airport, I just mentioned to you the alarming statements those officers came with. But what is shocking is that when I was being formally arrested, they brought in totally different charges. So how do you reconcile that? What motivated the initial investigation? What motivated the initial search? If what they would charge me with later, if a couple of hours later, will be a totally different charge altogether. So if what they had against me was the charge of hate speech and seditious practices, they would have just proceeded straight to that and charged me. Most likely would have been done within an hour, like we're done within 20 minutes this morning. So they went to great length to allege that I am involved in very dangerous activities. I want to warn the UPND, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I will not, for any reason, go out there and engage in activities that will endanger the security of this country. I've remained patriotic. I've remained loyal to this nation. So it's indeed very sad and shameful that officers could come and make those very alarming statements to the extent that we were participating in activities that would endanger the security of this country. So Wakainde Ichilema, ama elections aya leisa, kukosa pofye mulondolwe lyabantu ofu mwabomba. Tekutira nombo mwambe kulasange milandu ishabufi, isha kuti mule sanga abantu, mubekate, mubachite detained for a very long time. Pakutila bekashita participate in my elections. Muibonfye mingalato, avena Zambia tabasumine yo. Avena Zambia tabasumine mingalato yo. Na wakana avena Zambia valeti, unomuku tabasumine yo. Let's all follow the law. Let's follow what the Constitution says. And most importantly, let the law enforcement agencies respect the rights of citizens.
What does the manner of your detention and arrest say about the state of democracy and respect for the rule of law?
I've just described it, Bushi. What rule of law will you talk about if people can search you willy-nilly without any due regard to your right to privacy, as it were? People can just walk up to you and they say, we're from Office of the President, we're from Community House. And they begin to conduct a search upon you. They go to the extent of grabbing your phones, they bring the equipment, they plug it on, and get all the information that they can. And they are doing that in your absence. And tomorrow, they should come up and begin to throw things at you. That these are things that I found on your phone.
So what are you going to do to ensure that when you're elected president, the rule of law, respect for the Constitution is restored? How will you do that?
Well, first of all, I want to tell you this, Buchi. President Hakainde Hichilema is not the first president of this country. The same law that he's using are the same laws that President Lungu used, are the same laws that President Sata used, and many others. So we should differentiate the two. If you talk about certain gaps in the law, that's a different case altogether. I would like to see those gaps. But you must also look at the fidelity to the law. To what extent is this president ready to follow the law? You know very well that if you look at the Constitution Amendment Bill number 7 and what transpired, President Hakainde Hichilema simply disrespected the Constitution, he disrespected the court judgment and everything else. So you have a president today in State House who does not respect the rule of law. That's what it is. So, two things. The number one thing that we'll do, like I said earlier, because the people in the public service today, aba bonfi babuteko, abengina bonaika. Kwali bafya abasuma fya batuntulu, nomba umulandu wami bombele yaba UPND, na abasuma bonaikile kumo. It will be very difficult. It will be very difficult to get these same public workers to be able to work under a straight government, a government that follows the rule of law because of certain traditions and customs that they're acquiring today. So there will be need for retraining people in public service so that they recommit afresh to the rule of law, they recommit afresh to the Constitution. Now it's the order of the day. Nobody wants to follow the Constitution. These officers can breach the Constitution at will. They can violate constitutional provisions at will, especially when they think they work for the law enforcement agencies, as it were. So there is need for reforms. One, to strengthen institutions. We need to strengthen the independence of these institutions. The judiciary needs to be strengthened. The independence of the judiciary should be strengthened. The independence of the legislature should be strengthened. Then we look at retraining, going through the whole training of these public workers so that they realize what the actual responsibilities to the nation are. As it is now, everybody only listens to what one man says. It's what that man says. President Hakainde Hichilema is the law unto himself. If you do anything that doesn't please him, then you're done. So we can't run a government like that. My government, the government under Tonse, will be one that will follow the law to the letter. So the Zambian people should look out for my government, the Tonse government. That is a government that will ensure that rights of citizens are protected and not violated as the case is today. I want to talk to the civil servants, the public service workers. Mweba bomfiwa buteko. Ukulinga na ife tulemona, mulechula. Mulechulo mulandu wa mutitikisha. Umutitikisha wa kutila, nga mwambo kubomba, fila mfilo kubomba. Umofio muntu mpo, nga pita kumba ya tivala bonse 5 nima PF, inchito kupwa. So you are forced to compromise. And that is the reason why we will take everybody for retraining. We'll conduct short clinics, short courses, so that people can just refresh and begin to work properly yet again. So that's the commitment that I want to make the nation today.
These events, have they in any way maybe phased you in your ambition to lead this country forward?
Not at all, Bushi. Like I said, it's not about me. It's not about me. This I must make very clear. Forget about what I went through. The ordeal at the airport, the ordeal at IBEX, the ordeal in the police cell. Forget about all that. It's not about me. The only commitment I want to make is that if this is what it takes to run this country, if this is what it takes to be able to take the Zambians out of poverty, I am ready to go through that ordeal every other week. That's the commitment that I make.
All right, we take a short break, but when we do come back, we have some more of BM8 Unfiltered. Honorable Brian Mundubile, who is the Tonse Alliance president and candidate for the 2026 general elections, is going to answer some more of the questions that we have here for him.
Hello, Hakainde Hichilema Sakamuka, ukwisasa ngatika alipata opposition. Hakainde Hichilema aisa ishiwa kuti opposition ya kwete yabe na Zambia ukupitila muri Tonse Alliance. Umulandu wa kuti President Hakainde Hichilema nomba kwato mwenso. Aishiwa ukutina kwata opposition. Aishiwa ukuti Tonse Alliance ile isa. Na imi abantu bonse kuti sangeni fyakali konse akakubepeshe ntungurushi shamu Tonse bakuti ngashikaka. Lero message mpatile checha Hakainde Hichilema ile nchikwete mwenso boy.
It's been a ride. I guess I had to.
You're still watching BM8 Unfiltered, and I am here with the man of the moment, Honorable Brian Mundubile, leader of the Tonse Alliance and candidate for the 2026 general election come August. We've had a conversation on a number of issues, but one thing that piques my mind is the huge crowds that were with you at the police station. Nakulumuti Ntapamakasa. The youth, the old men that stood outside. What kind of a man are they buying into? Who is Brian Mundubile?
Yes, Buchi. You see, Brian Mundubile may be defined by his background. You're talking about a man who had a stint of growing up in the village, came out of there, lived in some elite society, went through different education facilities, right up to university and beyond. So, Brian Mundubile is one that would be comfortable among the poorest of the poor because he relates very easily with the circumstances of the people facing such a situation. Brian Mundubile will be comfortable among the elite because he has lived in such environments before. He'll be comfortable amongst the academics, the professionals, the civil servants, and many others. Now, this is all because of Brian Mundubile's background. The compassion, the empathy that you see, especially when he refers to the youths and Nakulumutinta Pamakasa, is because of the circumstances that he was faced with in his early life. So that passion about Nakulumutinta and the youth specifically relates to the circumstances Brian Mundubile was faced with in his early childhood. So you are talking about a man who wants to lead Zambia out of love and not out of selfishness. That is the reason why the central aspect of a policy formulation, like I've promised, will be Nakulumutinta Pamakasa Namusepela. This is because Brian Mundubile has identified a challenge in our country, a very big challenge in our country, especially to do with these two categories of citizens. Our women suffer. I served as a minister in Northern Province. I know exactly what I'm talking about. When you talk about water, you talk about access to health, you're describing circumstances that these women go through. You talk about high levels of unemployment, you're describing today's youths. Most of our youths have never really even discovered themselves because there's no environment through which they can fully discover their talents and their skills. So the government that Brian Mundubile aims to lead will be one, first of all, that will move Ministry of Health, Ministry of Youth and Sport under State House. You would ask me why. We are so behind. The backlog is so huge when it comes to youth matters. There's therefore need to accelerate the implementation of youth programs. And that will be so because Brian Mundubile is very passionate about the youth. Nakulumutinta Pamakasa is central to all policies, meaning that we will be tackling challenges of the lowest ranking citizen in terms of social status, the poorest of the poor. If we're able to attend to our challenges, then pretty much the other people in other categories are well attended to. If you're ndela ndapo buchi fya kutili, ile nalikala po kumushi. No buchushi bonse obwa kumushi nalipitamo. Ama chushi ya kumushambila kumenshi, kufipatala, ama distances ya kumaskulu, and sometimes if ya kulia. Filiana alipitamo. Kabili mushuko na kumaka ya kualesa, nalikala po na munchende shimo mulya mwikala abakankala nababulufu yafine wamunefe abantu baikala wamuna obupusano wakwikala kumushi n'okwikala mu town pakati kabakankala era omulandu w'amasukulu nalipita mu masukulu ayengi sana ma primary school ma secondary school nako kuma university nokunkanya pa masambirilo na fime on professional qualifications so lesalisa mpala nokukwata ichimonwa okumuno okuti omuntu afyalirwa kumushi omulanda kuti abomba nokulwa nokwisa kwate efintu limwambo kwingisha n'abantu inchito abantu abamuchirire abantu abasambira nokumuchira. So these are things that I've gone through. I have a very interesting journey that allows me to look at life differently. So this is the man that the people are looking at.
There's going to be a lot of queues during the voting. There's going to be people from different walks of life, people from different circles, different regions of this country. How is Brian Mundubile intending to ensure that there is unity if they vote for you, when they vote for you? Is there going to be unity? And how are you intending to ensure that there is unity in this country?
Well, first of all, like I said before, nalabwera kuli Brian Mundubile olawentwakitapitamu mukesasanga okuti monsi omuntu natwala epita character nangofu twala ekula. One, tribalism was never there. It should never be there. Number two, nakulile mu family abantu abengi. My father had 26 children. I come from a family of 26. Efiro sanga buchi, it's very, very rare. Tawakansange poninji kalaneka. It's very rare, okay? I live among people. Chari velela pantu, life nakulile, life ya abantu abengi. Takwale venchita panganda, winga sangwa poweka, because I come from a very big family, as it were. So, when you talk about unity, it also, it's centered on leadership. Unity is simply centered on leadership. There are certain things we can do through the law, for instance, to foster unity. I'll give you an example. I've always given an example about Article 259. Article 259 mandates leaders, all those who have responsibilities to make appointments, to do so taking into account regional diversity, gender, sex, among others. So before you look at unity, Buchi, you need to look at what causes disunity or what has caused the divisions. One of the major things that has led to our country to be divided are the things I've talked about, the things that Article 259 aims to address. When you have job opportunities, for instance, in government, let's look at three arms of government. Okay, these are three organs of the state. Who is the head of the judiciary? Who's the head of the legislature? Who's the head of the executive, and so on? Okay, so what people look at is that there are certain positions. For instance, a president is elected. Many other positions that are non-elective, like deputies, okay, appointments. How have they been done? Has the president made these appointments in conformity with Article 259? These are some of the causes of these divisions. This is very serious, Buchi. Mwambo kulolesha bushe, foreign missions, where are the lists? Let's go to the police service. Okay, the first 50 positions, top jobs, who's got them? Let's go to national service, who's got these jobs? Let's go to Zambia Army, who's got these jobs, and so on and so forth. It's all about the law. We are talking about complying with Article 259. Your question is on unity. So to start with, there's a law. There's a law, okay? That even if you're not a very good man, Buchi, as long as you follow the law, most likely you're going to unite this country on certain things. So some of the things that cause divisions are that the opportunities are not shared equitably. So we all must be very careful and remain alert to ensure that we go by what the law says. The letter of the law is very clear. If you just follow it, okay, bane, positions apanomba ama PSS tukweteshani. Okay, how have we balanced the tribes? Okay, ama directors tukweteshani. Okay, ama DCs tukweteshani. Okay, just following the law, you not have challenges. Then the next step, obviously, policy pronouncements that you make. Are you going to go to Mporokoso today, for instance, as a president, and say, kuno kumporokoso mukampele ama vote yonse ngata muvotele mukalafilo kwa kurusaka wakala mikaka fefine bale mikakale no mbaline ifine bale ikata president weno elo ali more opposition. The moment you do that, even if you are referring to something that may have some truth in it, you are dividing the nation. So one, the law exists. Amafunde ayakuleta unity epo yava ulupapulo lwachalo under article 259 epo lwava to bring about unity. Number two, amashiwe ya fumamukano kwa kateka aliwa very important. Kateka ngewa tangila alewa abantu ati kuno ngata mumvotere nkalusama election wakambokula miuma fila wale miuma na mkalafilo kwea kurusaka fila mwale filwa. Then you ask yourself a question, Butch. Is it true that people from a particular region were unable, could not even come into Lusaka for fear of being beaten? I can't remember that. I know that I served as a minister in the previous government and had provincial ministers who were friends of mine from all the provinces across the country. Not one day or at any time did any of the ministers even whisper to me to say they were worried about what was going on because people from a particular region could not travel to Lusaka, they would be isolated. How would you even know? Because if a bus is coming from whatever region, it doesn't carry a single tribe. It carries Zambians, simply put. So how would one person wait for this bus at Intercity? That's very unfortunate. So, Buchi, you must understand this. You must understand that most of the divisions today have happened because of our leaders.
What informs a political party's policies when they come into office? Majority is its manifesto. We've spoken about your manifesto several times. When can Zambians have access to the manifesto? When will it be ready?
Butch, I'm getting very excited with the manifesto that we're about to launch. In the next couple of days, we will be launching a manifesto. Our technical team is basically done. We went through it. We've looked at the draft. We are tweaking it here and there to make sure that it conforms to what we are promising the Zambian people. The manifesto that we deliver, the manifesto that we launch to the Zambian people will remain our Bible. From that manifesto, you will translate it into policy so that it's those policies that will be able to deliver. So we've taken our time. Our technical experts have been looking at this to make sure that we don't make promises in a vacuum, promises that will fail to deliver upon. We don't want to throw statements out to the people for expedience or just to be able to get their vote. Every undertaking that we're making through a manifesto has been thought through. It's coming from researched work, and that will be our commitment to the Zambian people. So in the next couple of days, we'll be launching a manifesto.
In how you're formulating this manifesto, how are you ensuring that the heart or the Zambian people are at the heart of this manifesto? What these Zambians want is exactly what is in that manifesto.
Oh, Buchi. Like I said, Nakulu Mutinta Pamagasane Misepela is central to our manifesto. You will see that repeated every so often. So we've remained steady. We've remained focused to ensure that, one, a Zambian will come first. It doesn't matter what the sector may be. Yes, we always favor investment. We like investment. We encourage investment and investors. But we want to make sure that it should be a win-win situation. The investor must get a decent return on his investments. But also, the owners of the wealth, the owners of the sovereign wealth, the Zambians, should also benefit from those particular investments.
Ichabaiche is now part of the Tonse Alliance. And the biggest question that a lot of young people will have is, how is Honorable Brian Mundubile going to make sure that when he is in government, we are not just mere cadres, or we're just not, we are involved in the decision making, taking our country forward?
We've already started functioning as a unit. If you saw what happened at Ibex, the police yesterday, these were coordinated efforts between the youths and the women and some of our leaders. You know, for instance, that the leader of Uchavaiche, Comrade Honorable Bino Mpundu, is actually the chairperson for presidential affairs. So when the president was in police cells yesterday, he took charge as minister, chairman, presidential affairs, coordinating the youths right across the country and within Lusaka. And that's some of the work is what you saw yesterday and today, people coming up together. So we've already started giving responsibilities to these youths. They will not be bystanders. They will not be spectators. They will be involved in the actual implementation of most of these policies. They'll take up top positions. They'll not be deputies. In most cases, they'll actually, head some of these institutions. So I know what youths can do. And by the way, Buchi, when you look at youths, let me just take you back. You're talking about between 18 to 35. Is that the case? So I want to take you back. How old was KK when we got independent? Okay? And then you work it backwards. He had started fighting a few years earlier. How old was FTJ when he became president? He had started fighting years earlier. So there's nothing new with what we're trying to do now. Most of our leaders actually got into leadership positions when they were youths. So even what we're doing now, the only difference is that along the way, after we got independence and so on, I think some leaders overstayed in those positions. And people began to move and started thinking that you need to be a certain age to be in leadership. As a matter of fact, even President Kaunda was very young when he took over as president. So what we are trying to do to promote the youths are able to take up these positions. Kaunda, this first cabinet, if you look at the average age of Kaunda's first cabinet, most of them were actually youths. So the youths will not be taking up leadership positions in my government for the first time. This has happened before, and maybe that's why we saw some accelerated development in the earlier years than we are seeing now.
Well, you're watching BM8 Unfiltered, and as we wrap, Mr. President, I just wanted to find out the plight of the youths in your government when you actually take office. Are the youths mere participants pushing your campaign forward? We've seen that Ichabaiche is actually under you. So how are you going to ensure that you involve the youths even when you take office?
Yes, Buchi. If you look at what is happening today, even within Tonse Alliance, the youths are fully involved. They're actually in the driving seat. The youths have already taken up the driving seat. We are still appointing some more youths because there is still some more positions to be taken up by the youths. So the issue to do with the youths, Buchi, I want to tell you that they will actually be in the driving seat. The Ministry of Youth and Sport will be at State House. It will be within State House. And like I said earlier, this is to accelerate the implementation of these youth programs, be it in agriculture, be it in mining, and many other sectors. And Buchi, like I said, this is not just a promise. It's actually a deliverable. And I want to say to the youth, just clock it.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's where we wrap up the show. Do stay tuned to BM8 Unfiltered, as next week we'll be coming on Thursday, same time, same platform, and all the other platforms that we continue to stream. You will catch it the same time, but it will be on a Thursday. Do stay tuned.
Hello, Hakainde Ichile Masaka Muka, Ukuisa Sangat Cancel Kwata Opposition. Hakainde Ichile Man Alsa Ishiwa Kuti, Opposition ya Kwete, Yavena Zambia, Ukupitila Muri Tonse Alliance. Umulandu wa Kuti, President Hakainde Ichile Manomba Kwato Mwenso. Aishiva Ukutina Kwata Opposition. Aishiva Ukuti Tonse Alliance Ileisa. Na imi abantu bonso kuti sangeni siakali konse akakube peshe ntungulushi shamu Tonse bakuti ngashikaka. lero message mpatire checha akainde chilema ile nchikwete mwenso boy
It's been a ride. I guess I had to go to that place.